and welcome back, everyone. Well, what does it take to be a pioneer? You're about to find out. Lew Murphy of Topsail says it was the hardest challenge in his life. Now in his 70s, Lew's ship has finally come in. And as Deanne Fleet tells us on The Finest Kind tonight, Murphy survived it all with his reputation and ambition to keep going intact.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling.
At 73, Lew Murphy still takes weekly voice lessons with Janet Bradbury. And at 73, he finally made it big in business. But even so, he wonders whether it was all worth it.
If you put them 40 years together, I think I'd rather go through everything bad that ever happened to me in my life, including the war, than go through this again. I would never do it again.
Why?
Because it was just too hard.
He started work at 13, a messenger boy for the post office. At 20, he barely survived a Chinese onslaught in Korea. War-related stress led him to take up singing. He studied with the Canadian Opera Company. He left that and came back to Newfoundland, sang for the CBC.
My ship she lay anchored far out on the tide.
Singing paid peanuts. Off-camera, he worked as a salesman, realtor, labor organizer. A Pepsi strike changed the course of his life.
The hardest bloody racket I ever took on in my life, or that anybody ever took on in Newfoundland in their life, and stuck with it. You know, I stuck with it through thick and thin.
A fight with a strikebreaker started it. He landed in jail. A judge gave him a suspended sentence as long as he stayed out of trouble. So Murphy took up rock collecting, of all things, to keep him out of bars and pool halls.
Every once in a while you bring in a rock with a mineral in it. Different kind of a mineral. So you go to the mines branch and talk to the people in there, which was a very small mines branch at the time, 4 or 5 people there. And they describe the mineral to you and give you a little book or a couple of samples of here and there, you know. And gradually you got into it.
Lew Murphy pioneered the first independent prospecting and junior mining company here.
And I work with all these people in science, and they're beautiful people, I'll tell you, you know. All these, and they helped me so much. They taught me so much. So it's like I've been in school for 40 years, you know. That's what it's like. And I've been in school for 40 years, and I'm still in school.
If Murphy believed a property had mineral potential, he'd stake it, test it, then work like a dog to promote and sell it to bigger companies that could finance costly drilling. Paul Dean, geologist, former deputy minister, and now head of the Johnson Geo Centre.
In some cases, he was selling a legitimate thing. In some cases, it was a bit of a sort of moose pasture. But nevertheless, Lew had faith in it, and he was able to convince people to come and spend money in the province.
Maybe take a quick shot out through Deer Lake.
Life in the mineral sector crushes some. Sometimes Murphy wouldn't even earn milk money for his kids. Other times he'd be flush with cash.
Losing houses and losing this, that, and the other thing, and everybody's suffering, you know, belong to you. I don't have to go through that horror anymore.
Brian Dalton heads Altius Minerals, one of the biggest natural resources companies in this province.
Prospecting this bug, when you get it, it's not something that you take on as a job and you aspire to retire from. It's in you is what makes you up, I think.
It's Joe, away we will go. It's a new ball game.
Murphy always dreamed big. Music gave him the entree to people like Premier Joey Smallwood.
Lots of people said, every time you see Joey, Lew Murphy's around. Sure, Lew Murphy was around, because Lew Murphy wanted to meet some of them people that were associated with Joey at the time. I wanted to meet people who were financiers in the business and that, you know, people who knew how to do things. I wanted to learn how to do things.
They'd marvel on how Lew Murphy survived.
It's a story about something about a horse being on a payroll up in Cape Royal one time, but I don't know the details of it, but it's probably worth digging into.
He actually would sell tapes of his music to pay his registration fee at a prospectors conference or something like that. So he always used his creativity to help himself when he was down and out.
Not many could have rode through the ups and downs he's seen in this business. I mean, that's like staying on the back of a Bronco for 40 minutes, not 8 seconds.
Here's what he said in a story I did 20 years ago.
Maybe I'm not so much of a character as I'm a survivor. You know, when you become a survivor, it takes character to be a survivor.
Murphy promoted Labrador's mineral potential from the start. He says he missed out on the Voisey's Bay discovery by a hair.
At that time, I said, Lord, why didn't you give that to me? I deserved that. I worked so hard for that. Why didn't you give that to me? And I got this little message back somehow, this feeling or thought or whatever it was, relax. I got something better for you.
His marriage ended, he became ill, yet he never stopped.
I would cry about that.
The people who've been hurt along the way?
No, not the people that have been hurt, because I've been hurt. But some of the people I've loved along the way, you know, who I lost.
3 years ago, Murphy restaked some of his early Labrador uranium properties. And finally, Eureka. It's now one of the hottest exploration projects in the province. More than $35 million invested there so far this year. Perhaps nothing may come of it, but Lew Murphy has already made $1 million from it, and he's likely to make more if a mine does come.
I don't have to worry about the future, and I don't think my kids will have to worry either, the future. But I just want to keep going on this thing because it's making things happen. St. Mary's Bay there, you know where the bird rocks are down there.
Now, Murphy promotes another property on the Southern Avalon. He's already invested $100,000 in it.
When this leg gets good again, I'll be on the road again, you know, if the good Lord spares me. If he don't, I was after doing the best job I could for him, and that's it. I couldn't do no more.
They call him a survivor and hold him in high regard.
Shall sleep in peace until you come to me.
Deanne Fleet, CBC News, St. John's.
Hey, what a great story. That guy's a real rock star, hey? And remember, if you have any story ideas for the finest kind, Deanne would love to hear them. You can reach her at Deanne_Fleet@cbc.ca.